make a girl a promise. If you know you can't keep it. They let me pick. Did I ever tell you that? Choose whichever Spartan I wanted. You know me. I did my research, watched as you became the soldier we needed you to be. Like the others, you were strong and swift and brave. A natural leader. But you had something they didn't. Something no one.
Welcome everybody to episode 5, apparently, of the Xbox Series podcast. It's going to be another good one. They always are. There's no potatoes in sight, nothing to worry about. And yeah, let's get straight into it with our introductions. So every Thursday we appear at about this kind of time. It's me, Asa, and you've got Deadly Headley and Gamzly as well. We're going to go in reverse order. Gamzly, how are you doing this afternoon?
Oh my God, I am very happy. I've cleared my desk of all potatoes and trophies, so it's all clean. No potato in sight. Everything's good. I got my win. I'm feeling lighter. I'm feeling happy. Let's go. Let's talk about some Xbox news.
Yeah. Okay. For those on Spotify who can't actually see right now, Gamzly does have a secret potato somewhere in the scene. It's not that well hidden. It is there. Deadly Headley, no potatoes for you. How are you doing? You're my favourite right now.
It's a bit rude, isn't it?
Wow.
Especially when this is all your
Good
fault.
evening. Good evening, friend. I'm all right, thank you, mate. I'm very, very good. Struggling to believe that it is already Thursday. These weeks go quick in these streets. But I'm good. I'm very, very good. Potato-less,
Okay.
as you said. There are no lurking potatoes in my room.
Yeah, hopefully. Have you got your "This is fine" sign with us this week, or is everything? No
I don't
longer
know.
fine?
That's long gone. I've decided that everything is fine forever, even though it's not.
It may well not
really
be.
is.
It's a good point, because as the year has gone on, we've had this roller coaster, particularly on the Xbox side of things, a roller coaster of emotions. And I actually don't know where it is right now, because it's been going from one week to the next. It's been like, everything's brilliant. We're all going to die. Everything's brilliant. We're all going to die. And this week it's actually been a little bit more steady, hasn't it? I don't think there's been any massive flips or shock turns. Just some games.
It is only Thursday. It's only Thursday. There's still...
What do we do, though? Are we due a high or a low? What happened last?
Okay, so we had the 4 games going to PlayStation/Switch, sort of. And I guess depending on which side of the fence you fell, you either thought it was a high or a low. I think we sort of landed somewhere in the middle, because it left some unanswered questions, but for the most part, felt pretty okay about where we were at. The news this week has been quite interesting. Those sort of some highs and some lows, and all of them seem to have arrived.
There are definitely some
today.
lows, and we're definitely going to get to those. But before we do, we're going to talk about our favourite part of gaming, which is gaming. Deadly Headley, what have you been playing?
Absolutely. I'm still playing Baldur's Gate 3. I have not had the opportunity to play anything else, but I am still obsessed with Baldur's Gate 3. I think I have just started, or I'm about to start Act 3, which I'm very excited about the fact that I've gotten this far, because genuinely, if you pitched In fact, half the world seemed to be pitching Baldur's Gate 3 to me a year ago. I probably would have turned my nose up at it. And I do have to give a shout out to my D&D group that I play with every Sunday, because I don't think that I would have received Baldur's Gate 3 in the same way as I did if I didn't play a few sessions of D&D with them first. But Baldur's Gate 3 really did capture me instantly. So
it's so strange to me that you play tabletop Dungeons and Dragons, but Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't high on your list already. Like,
so I started playing D&D about 3 weeks before before Baldur's Gate came out to Xbox, but we actually play over Discord, which is quite fun. So we use D&D Beyond, and Albert and my mate Nick, who will be listening to this, so shout out to him. He may even be watching live, I'm not sure, but he created a fantastic campaign that we've all really enjoyed, so shout out to him because he's done a fantastic job.
Playing over Discord is cool because that means that tabletop Dungeons and Dragons online infrastructure is on a par with Nintendo's, which you also have to just organize over Discord.
Why did you have to do that to Nintendo? What the fuck's going on here?
Someone's got to take him down a peg. God.
Jesus Christ.
It was a fair comment, though. It was a fair comment. Gamzly, what have you been playing this week?
Oh my god, a lot of stuff. Too much stuff. So I've been playing this game. Okay, so as you guys know, I love Brotato. It's the best game of the year. It's going to win Game of the Year. No, I have not. But I went to something sort of in the same genre. So I this is one that I actually think Asa would like a lot more. Deep Rock Galactic Survive. So this is much more fun. It has a better objectives. It has better objectives. It has objectives in the first place, so you'll like that, Asa. Essentially, you have this map, and it's always random. And your objective is it's the same thing, you know, top overhead camera, and you run around, and it just auto attacks things. But the kick is that it has like little nodes of like ore or other crystals or other stuff that you could kind of run into. Every wall you could run into, but you'll start to hammer through the wall. So it'll slow you down. It'll hammer through the wall. You can make little paths to escape the creatures that are constantly coming after you. It'll slow you. Sometimes it'll mess you up because there's flying things that will kind of just, you know, fly over the obstacles and hit you, so it could actually be a hindrance too, to if you choose to like dig through a rock to get ore. It'll fly over and attack you easier, so sometimes digging is not a good idea. So it has all these different angles you could go with it, and then at the end there's always this big boss and swarms that will attack you, and you just have to survive and get the heck out. Fascinating gameplay. You should actually check this out. So Deep Rock Galactic Survive. Go check that out on Steam. It's amazing. Deep Rock Galactic is just such a good game in general. And it's a little spin-off.
I assume
I'd quite enjoy it.
Because at the moment on Steam it's in early access, isn't it? I assume because Deep Rock Galactic is on console, this is presumably coming at some point. Have they spoken about it yet? Do you know when that might be?
For Xbox?
Yeah.
What did you say? Oh yeah, no,
game.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I was playing on Steam.
It will come though, I would think. Like, it's obviously a fit for the console, and the Deep Rock Galactic is on console and was on Game Pass for a time, wasn't it? So I assume this one won't.
It still is, I believe.
Yeah.
I really hope, because it is truly an interesting spin on the genre. So go check that out, guys. It's really addicting, and it does have a purpose and an end and an end goal and all that stuff. Asa.
It looks a million times more entertaining than Brotato. It does look a lot better to me. Like this, I'm on this. Yeah.
Go check that out. Trust me. Even though I hate you, and Brotato is amazing. Also, I've been playing dabbling.
Are you talking to me or the audience? Who do you hate? Do you hate all of them? Or are you talking to?
I fucking hate everybody.
Oh, good. Okay,
every single one of you guys. Every single one of you. Yeah, go check that out.
At least he's honest, right?
At least I'm honest. I'm also a Canadian Indivisibles is also a game that just hit Game Pass. That's a lovely little RPG that I'm dabbling in. I can't say much about it. Haven't really dove into it that much. I'm just in the starting area. Really fun. I'll have more on that next week. Dead Island 2, I'm still on it, and I'm playing a little bit of Baldur's Gate, weirdly enough.
Baldur's Gate 3 or
Restarted
an ancient
it.
one? 3, yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah.
So
How about you?
you
Asa?
mentioned Dead Island there. I tried that. That obviously came into Game Pass. Was it last week or the week before? I forget the time frame. But that, if you haven't already played that on Xbox, that was better than I expected, because it was a game that had this very long, storied, drawn-out development cycle where everybody thought this is going to be terrible. And then it came out and it wasn't terrible. It's not the best game that I've ever played. It's very tight and confined, but it was surprisingly pretty, and I was impressed by the combat. Like, it sounds stupid. It doesn't feel great
so
in your
satisfying.
hands, but it is really satisfying to chop things up. It's very, very responsive, very specific to where you're hitting enemies and things, which kind of, there's a weird juxtaposition because it's very, very dynamic. Everything is physics driven, but it's also trying to keep its RPG roots, and it's spraying numbers. It's saying like, oh, you did 17 damage or maimed and all the rest of it. I quite want to turn off all of the numbers and pop in and stuff, because it doesn't necessarily fit the vibe and the theme of the game to me. But I was surprised by how much I enjoyed that.
Dude,
one.
how
I tend to go back to it and play some more.
How satisfying is jump kicking things? It's so good.
In real life, very. In that game, I actually
No.
haven't jump kicked anything.
What? The double leg?
I'm only in
jump
the...
kick?
Yeah, I haven't done that. Little drop kicks.
Well, it's in the tutorial, man.
No, it's not. Regular kicks are in the tutorial. Hitting stuff is in the tutorial.
The dive kick?
Oh, I
It's
must have.
totally in the
I must have
tutorial.
not read it. Fine. I'm only like an hour into it. I think I would consider it to be past the tutorial, but maybe not.
Yeah,
I've got learning to do. I've got
it's
playing to
all-
do.
I know. You got Brotato to get off of. You know what I mean? Just get off
This
of
is
that.
the
I
problem.
know
I'm
you love
behind
it.
on all
I
of
know
my
you love it.
games because you
Get it?
told me that this game was good, and I tried to find the goodness in it. I would have finished Baldur's Gate 3 by now. I would have finished Dead Island by now, but you told me something's going to happen eventually if you just keep playing Brotato. Spoilers, and I don't normally spoil any game whatsoever, but it is literally impossible to spoil Brotato
Don't listen to
because
this guy.
nothing
He just-
happens.
Don't listen to him. He hasn't had his milk tea yet. All right, he'll soften up.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point.
You're both playing Baldur's Gate 3, and you're both on Act 3. Are you guys max level?
I just hit that last time I was playing, which was Tuesday maybe.
Oh man, it's so good. Anyways, we can move on.
It is so
Good
good.
stuff.
It is so good, and
I
I can't.
I'm still I'm still at that sort of phase in my Baldur's Gate journey where I still don't really feel like I know precisely what I'm doing, but I've managed to get this far, and I call that an achievement. The personal highlight for me was clutching a fight with just Astarion using Hyde and his sort of sneak ranged attack to deal some massive damage. And I managed to turn the fight around, resurrect everybody, and not die. And it was awesome. It was so cool.
Stealth
I
is
shouldn't
for
have
cowards
beaten.
and wankers and deadly Headley.
I'm aware.
Don't
But
listen to
I'm
Asa.
I'm a Baldur's Gate noob, so I'm not going to apologize for
Asa,
it.
I've been watching Asa on his streams. All he does is like freaking bull rush things and die. That's all he does.
Whoa, that's. Are you talking about Baldur's Gate or every game that I play? That sounds like Forza.
Literally everything. Everything.
It's not untrue, and I can't hide it because I do stream a lot. While we're on the bad news, then let's get into the topic, shall we? Should we start with EA? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Electronic Arts have made some changes. Not all bad, but predominantly bad because in line with everywhere in the industry, they've made a whole load of redundancies. They're reducing their workforce by, I think they were 8%, which was about 700 people. Which there's only so much that you can say about that because everybody's doing it and it sucks. And we all know that it sucks, and that's just going to go around in a circle of saying that it sucks. Everybody hates it. But it does come with a little update on what their kind of strategy is, which there's a bit more conversation around on that one because EA have said that they are, like many publishers, they are refining their focal points. They're going to focus on their own IP, their sports games, and established multiplayer service games, with less of a focus on licensed IP. And that's quite interesting because that's a different direction to most of the industry. Typically, as game development is so notoriously risky, normally you mitigate that risk, or most publishers have been mitigating that risk by taking a big license and making a Spider-Man or a Marvel game or a Star Wars or a Disney. In EA's case, they were making and are still making some Star Wars games, but they have cancelled one that people were already looking forward to, even though it hadn't been announced, which is The Mandalorian. Gamzly,
Yes.
does this hurt you? What do you think of all this?
Well, EA losing a bunch of people, that always sucks. The whole industry seems to be kind of on fire, letting some people lose. I think it's just a heavy restructure everywhere. And I think it's just necessary in some cases and unnecessary in other cases. Only companies like right now that companies that do it a little bit fair is Nintendo. For some odd reason, Nintendo just decides, hey, let's pay cut the high execs, and it's very weird, right? Nintendo seem to be these like, no exec would cut their own kind of budget to help the studios, but yeah. So
Nintendo
Nintendo's
like,
a little
we
bit of
need
an
more money.
exception
Let's
there.
get it from Yuzu. Send in the lawyers. We'll take their money.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get it from outsource. But yeah, it's always bad. But I find it interesting though that they're not gonna do the licensing thing. It doesn't surprise me either. Now knowing that Spider-Man is so much, right? Like when we look at, if you told me before, like, oh yeah, EA is gonna ditch their I don't know, Star Wars license and not make Jedi Survivor games anymore, I'd be like, wow, that's an odd look because they've been so successful and so big. But that's numbers on the outside. But then when you zoom in and it's like 150 million for the license, you're like, wait a second. Then it's not as viable as we once thought. So it doesn't surprise me, but it also surprised me because they're so successful at it at this moment, right? You'd think that we're going to talk on it. Canceling a Mandalorian game seems kind of weird, right? They did say they canceled that, right?
Yeah, but they didn't say because that game hadn't actually been announced, but they said,
Okay.
I think it's officially confirmed
They're not
that a
working
Star
on
Wars
it.
project was, and it is definitely The Mandalorian, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a little bit baffling, right? Because I don't know what it is about this Mandalorian stuff, but this is the second time a shooter like this gets kind of canceled. I wonder why.
13 one.
Yeah.
It's funny because when this broke and we were talking about Mandalorian just a couple of weeks ago, I said I'm really disappointed that they're making a Mandalorian game because personally I would much rather Titanfall 3. That's a more interesting IP to me, a more interesting property. I've had enough of Star Wars. Give me what you're good at. I didn't mean for it to happen like this though. I wasn't like wishing for project cancellations and studio cuts, but I don't mind. I'm quite happy to see EA and any other publisher pivot away from licenses. And I'm a sucker for a license. I've played Spider-Man and whatever else. I'll do that, but I much prefer original properties wherever possible, rather than the heavily milked Marvel, Disney, Star Wars stuff. But
yeah, all these companies have, like, they got so big for a reason. They really did. Like, when they were focusing on their own games, it was pretty stellar. Yeah, it's EA, so they have like the EA sports titles that really helped push them up, but for the most part, they grew themselves with niche, fun titles, and I want to see them go back to that as well. We'll see what happens. I'm ready for some new stuff coming out of them.
New stuff is
but also
the omitted information
for
though.
all the people gone. Yeah.
Yeah, you can infer from what they're saying though. We know that they're moving away from licensed stuff, but they're also seemingly not looking at taking risks themselves. They are talking about established IP, so we're going to see a lot of Battlefield and potentially Titanfall, but less Immortals of Avium. Like nothing new, nothing risky in that sense. Because Immortals of Avium, it was second party, as you'd say, but they poured a bunch of money in it to create a new IP, and that did not do very well for them by all accounts. So it seems unlikely that we're going to be seeing creative risk necessarily. Is that fair, Deadly Headley? What's your take on all of it?
I'm kind of mixed on the news. So I think specifically on a Mandalorian game made by Respawn not coming to fruition is something that I am quite gutted about, because I really, really love what Respawn do with their first person shooters. So I'm a huge Titanfall fan, love Apex. Like for a good few years, Apex was basically the only game I played from when it launched right up until, I want to say, about season 15. I played very little single player stuff. I just played Apex for a few years, and I absolutely loved that game. So yeah, I was definitely excited to see what Respawn could do with a Star Wars IP, and yeah, Mandalorian would have been a really good one. In terms of what this means for EA going forward, I'm also with you, to countering my own point there. I think that it is. I think it's quite an. I think the Insomniac links were a really good lens, or a really interesting lens to look at this through, because those leaks really highlighted the slice of the pie that Disney were taking back from, and I can't remember the actual proportion of profits that they were taking back from Spider-Man 2 sales, but the leaked documents that we saw from Insomniac really sort of exposed those extreme budgets that were attached to AAA licensed games. So I think it's definitely a positive move for EA, because clearly that was starting to look unsustainable. But similarly, I'm glad that from what we have heard so far, the next Jedi Survivor game, or next.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not
Jedi.
Yeah.
It's Jedi.
Yeah.
The next Jedi game is still coming,
Mhm.
as far as we're aware. So they said that's still in the pipeline, but the Mando game is gone.
Yeah, Iron Man and Black Panther still in the works as well, for people wondering
Yes,
about their other
that's
big
right,
IPs. Yeah.
And I'm glad to hear about that as well, because actually, although Anthem didn't necessarily hit what it in the way that it should have done, or the way that some people expected it to, clearly some of the learnings from that are absolutely applicable to an Iron Man game, and that is something that I'm excited to see. So yeah, I'm glad that that's still in the works.
So, you mentioned there, though, so they've got their big IPs and the contracts that are in place are still going to come out. Maybe we won't see much more in terms of new licenses. It's going to take a while. Like, shifts in the industry will take a little bit of time, and certain things in the pipeline are still coming. But there's been a lot of talk of AAA development being unsustainable, and this, like, EA are very much typically in the AAA space. But there's also been redundancies in smaller studios like Deck 9 that made the off Life is Strange games, so Before the Storm and whatever else, True Colors. They've had a 20% reduction in workforce as well. So it's not just the AAA space. What do you think is going to happen, like, short to mid-term? How does the industry self-correct? How does it stop cutting everybody and stabilize and continue giving us games? What's happening?
Oh my God, where do we start with that?
Very good question.
I think there's something to be said for being like small and nimble, right? So whenever these studios, if all these people, like thousands of people are getting laid off, if they're truly passionate about games and the industry has room for more games, which it doesn't add. I think we are at like a big inflation point. I think there's a point where there's just too much, and the pendulum went all the way up. And I think it has to swing back down, where less less games have to be made. That won't happen. I think it's always going to go up, but all these people are gonna go away, think about what they want to do, but most of them are probably going to come back and start their own little kind of club. They're all in their own indie studios, and the good products will shine, and there's going to be opportunities. Look at all the big publishers right now have like arms that are trying to help everybody. We're going to talk about that soon with Xbox and Toys for Bob. Big, strong publishing arms with a lot of money are here to support. So that's what's going to happen. These smaller, nimble studios are going to pop up everywhere and try to make their smaller games and hit a sustainable mark. Because I think a lot of indie studios, I don't know, I'm not a genius, but the indie studios that are lucky right now, it all comes down to budgeting and knowing your stuff and not going too ambitious, not going too high above the watermark. And they seem to be floating pretty well, right? So we'll see what happens.
Some
I
cases.
think, yeah, some cases. I don't know. It's not a perfect. I have no idea, man. I don't know. Headley, you need to help me out here. I don't know what to say about this. Because there's a lot of games out there. I think there's just too much, and we can't consume enough to. I think there's just an over supply of games.
It is a really tough question, and I think it sort of. I think so. We saw mass hires through COVID, and I think that's part of the course correction now, isn't it? Because I think that kind of we're at the other end of. And I'm not entirely sure as to why those mass hires happened, and I think that sort of kind of shows some of my gaps in terms of not being as close to the industry as someone who's podcasted for it.
Sorry.
Go on. No,
everybody was. It just shot up, right? All the consumer products shot up at that point, like everything, like TV, movies.
Well, suddenly gaming was the thing that everybody could do. It was just okay. I can't leave. I can't go anywhere. But you know what I can do? I can play a shitload of video games.
Romanticize it though, because I'm with you in that you'd think the people that were running these companies and steering these ships would look at that and go, well, this is temporary because everyone's going to go back to work soon. But it could be that there are people making decisions that actually like games that just assume that all of these people who are staying home and trying games are suddenly going to be the market now. Like they're not going to stop because games are awesome. So there might have been a little bit of naivety in there where people thought the bubble's not going to burst. It's going to grow from COVID, and these people are going to stay because they're having a great time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but the opposite all of a sudden. The opposite happened. Instead, they were like, "Oh, yeah, real life stuff.
Just saying goodbye to their free time."
Yeah, like they're poor. They have to make like tax payments and all this stuff. They're like, "Oh my god." Yeah,
that damn mortgage still needs paying. It's just
exactly
things happen. So. Yes, obviously there is definitely some course correction that's happening there. In terms of how the games industry recovers, I think what I feel quite hopeful about is the amount of talent that there currently is in this sort of pool of developers that are looking for new work or looking for to sort of join existing teams. There's also going to be a pocket of developers that will consider starting something new, and we've already seen. I'm struggling to think of any specific examples off the top of my head. So, Asa, if any come to mind, I'd appreciate the help. But I know there were some guys from Playground Games that went to go and start something.
Yeah,
new.
Mike Brown started up his own thing, didn't he?
And I wonder if maybe part of the course correction is just seeing more moves like that, more decisions like that. But Gamzly, I also think you raised a really sort of kind of worrying but also exciting from a consumer's perspective. It's exciting. From a games industry perspective, it's a little bit concerning that we might actually start becoming saturated with video games, but we've also got more and more players arriving every single day. Like I think, where a lot of growth is coming from in the industry is children that are maturing to the point where they are, evolving beyond just playing on Switch, for example, and maybe looking at what something like PlayStation has to offer or what Xbox might offer. You've got a new generation of mobile gamers who spend more time on phones and tablets than they do any other device. The new, growth in respect to the consumer market is growing bottom up. But I think the challenge that you've got with the games industry is you've got a lot of developers in an established industry, and it's taking longer and longer to shout out to Blaze 4K
Blaze
in the
knows.
chat. That's funny.
Fuck you, Blaze.
Just bringing the heat
You little
for Gamzly. Shout out to
He
him.
took a shot and ran, that fucker. I love you, man.
I think there's definitely a concern about there almost being sort of too many cooks on the market, but we don't really want to see any of those cooks be out of work. We want to see them cooking. But the problem is, if we sort of continue torturing this rather laboured analogy, apologies for that, is we need more kitchens.
We don't need more kitchens, we
Yeah,
need more
and
mouths to
serious.
feed.
Yeah, we need a lot of.
But I think we
that's
are
what
getting more mouths to
concerns-
feed.
Oh,
Well, we have the
We
kitchens
also-
because more and more independent studios out of all of this bad stuff is gonna start popping up. That's the kitchens, right? It's just that the consumers, how many are there, and how many are willing? Like, it's not like how we have podcasts, right? So think about it. We thought that gaming's gonna blow up and whatever. It's the best medium to have, but like if we think about it. So Microsoft has the mobile market. That's kind of, well, they want the mobile market. That's kind of the smartest place to go because we're always on the go. We always want to pick up a brotato. You know, those are the things that do pretty well, and they're trying to get there because it takes little time to get enjoyment out of it, and you don't have to be truly conscious when you're playing these games, right? Because you're always on the move and whatever. It's a bite-sized piece. You take a bite, you put it back in your pocket, whatever. When it comes to video games though, like you can't just have a video game in the background like you could have a movie or a podcast, and that's what scares the hell out of me. When is it going to grow? How far is it going to go? I don't know, because it's just not a movie and not not a podcast where you could just have it in the background and consume it in the background, and you pay for Netflix, but sometimes you don't even listen to the show. You just have it going on and you're cooking and what. You can't do that with video games. You have to be hands-on, looking at a screen all the time, and that's what scares the crap out of me with video game growth. Is that I think it's the best possible media you could consume. It has everything, right? Music, stories, gameplay, interactivity. It's all amazing. It's the best form, but it's also the form that you need your attention to be on the most. Like, you need to have your eyes on this stuff all the time for you to enjoy it and to get your money with it. So I'm very scared in that way. So even if we have the kitchens, will it grow fast? I don't know.
There was
or
a fantastic
will it grow as much as movies? I don't know.
Yeah, there was a fantastic point that Asa, you made it on GameOn Daily, and I actually think Gamzly may have been on that show. I can't remember. You were talking about your experience with working in a cinema, and someone explaining to you what the competition was. Gamzly, were you on that show? I think you might have been, but I actually can't remember. It doesn't matter.
I was on one, so I don't.
It was same. I for some reason I thought it was that one. Anyway. Asa, you talked about the competition for movie theaters not being other movie
credit
theaters.
for this. It's not my analogy. It's Dan from Cineworld's analogy. He's a wise guy. He was just generally talking about like, what is competition for the cinema, and it's relevant to games because the answer applies. Competition for the cinema at that point in time, there was various other entertainment things on the complex that the cinema was on, and there's obviously other cinemas various distance away, but that's not their primary competition. Their primary competition is anything that people can spend time and money on. And video games sit very much in that same field. Like, I'm not saying cinemas are particularly relevant to the conversation, but the fact that anybody spending money on video games and spending time on video games could be spending that time and that money on absolutely anything else makes every form of entertainment competition. And so what you were saying about you think we're going to reach a point of saturation, I think we're well past the point of saturation. There is too many games. People can't play them. The small, nimble indie studios, there were 14,000 games released on Steam over the course of 12 months. Almost none of them get played, but there are so many small games. The industry as a whole, I see a lot of people talking at the moment saying that their solution to the problem is that we need to kind of kill AAA and make games smaller and trim budgets back down. But that's ignoring how we got to that point in the first place. We got to that point because of saturation. We got to that point because there were too many games and the AA's could not make any impact. And if you look at it now with Game Pass presenting like 450 games for people to go and pay without playing, if you're trying to make a AA game right now, like moderate budget, and you don't get the nod from Microsoft, you don't get any kind of deal, and you're just like trying to sell that thing in the market against a billion other games. It's so difficult. And the only way to kind of balance the scales when it is oversaturated in that way, when you've got all of these cooks making all of these games, is you need the people eating to either pay more money, which is ties back to what Phil Spencer was saying about there's ways to get more money from people, but you get into the properly manipulative microtransactions, battle passes, dark patterns, 3-day early access, pre-order bonuses, like that kind of shite. Or you find new people to play games. And then, like, that's the option that we want, and the option that we believe in, and the option that Microsoft believed in. You can find loads more people to play games. The planet's got a whole lot of people that have never played Gears of War, and they're going to love it. But the reality is that they don't necessarily love it. They might prefer entirely different types of content. But the AAA space and the gaming, like the kind of core experience that we're all in love with, that's struggling to make inroads into a wider audience. And the kids that are coming through, these kids with their Switch, like I've got 2 kids and I can't get them to move on from freaking Roblox, which doesn't help my case at all. It doesn't help the AAA industry at all. So it's a difficult one. And us three, we're just humble podcasters who don't have the answers and don't pretend to. Yeah. And we're not going to turn around in 3 weeks' time if something happens to fall our way and say, look how smart we were. Because we weren't. We're just talking shit. Little ray of hope. Toys for Bob.
We have fun doing it. That's the main thing.
Hopefully we have fun, and hopefully people have fun listening, and hopefully it just like gets people thinking a little bit. That's good enough. That serves a purpose, doesn't it? But Toys for Bob. So obviously an industry trend is consolidation. Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard King. A few weeks ago, they made their wave of redundancies, and Toys for Bob were caught up in that. There were rumors and speculation that studio was closing entirely, and people were quite upset. That didn't happen. They lost a bit of staff and they lost their office, but we've just learnt today, through some kind of sorcery and blood pact, Toys for Bob have gained their independence from Microsoft and Activision Blizzard King. If you don't know the studio, they did a lot of work on Crash Bandicoot. I'm not sure. I hate Crash Bandicoot, so I don't know which games they worked on. But for other people's sake, they did some good work on Crash Bandicoot, and then they got roped into the Call of Duty machine. So there's got to be some hope here, right? What are Toys for Bob going to do now, Gamzly?
The Skylanders, right? Is their biggest one?
Were they Skylanders?
I think so. Somebody in the chat will quickly tell me if I'm wrong. What
by reputation, though, you're right, because it was the more like it was platformy, cartoony, until they got roped into Call of Duty somehow.
Yeah, I think it was Skylanders. Yeah. But anyways, I'm so happy. Okay, so everybody's taking this news a little bit rough. Like, there's a lot of people out there, even people that we respect and podcasters we respect, that kind of, you get their first opinion, and their first opinion's always really sad. Like, oh my God, doom and gloom, everything. I think this is great, and I want to touch up on, this stuff. Like, as these people gain their independence or get fired, go open their own independent stage, I think co-development is also a big thing that you might see happening, that puts money in people's hands and helps people's families and helps developers, but without like putting more and more games out there. Get it? Like
that's not what you envisioned for Toys for Bob, though, is it? Or is it?
No. Well, I don't. Well, they said that they're, I don't know, a partnership with Microsoft. It could be anything, right? Could be, look, we're gonna help co-develop a game. We're gonna help with, I don't know, initiative stuff. We're gonna help with, I don't know, whatever. We don't know what the partnership is, but it's something interesting. I think that would be really cool, and a part to a way to help, like, have more jobs in the industries and more studios, but not necessarily a ton of games. Co-develop a game, a series that already exists from another company. We see it all the time. But Toys for Bob being independent and doing what they do good, making fun platforming games, fun kid games for everybody. I think this is a good thing. I want to see them make, I don't know, Tony Hawk or something. I don't know. Put them on anything. I'm really excited to see what the contract would look like. I my heart says, please give me a Spyro. You know, if they could get Spyro from Microsoft, why not? Yeah, I'm happy for these guys. I can't wait until they could like stretch their legs out of the Call of Duty machine and give us something interesting, if anything.
It is.
But yeah, it's not a bad thing, guys. Calm down. I don't
The
think
general
I don't
tone
think
of voice.
studios.
The general tone of voice from the blog post actually sounds really positive. Like
Well,
they're
exactly.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
thrilled to announce. I've got it in front of me actually. They say they're thrilled to announce that Toys for Bob is spinning off as an independent game studio. With I'm sort of just kind of skimming down a little bit, but with the same enthusiasm and passion, we believe that now is the time to take the studio and our future games to the next level. Like they're hyped about this. This is positive for them. There are no bad noises coming from this press release, and
Tell
it's
me
come
though.
directly
Well,
from them.
look,
And this
look.
isn't a negative, but I'm curious what you think is going on here, because you're Toys for Bob. You're currently part of Microsoft. Why would you leave to become independent to then work in partnership with Microsoft? Like, what's actually happening? What's the situation with Toys for Bob? And this is obviously going to be guesswork because that
Well,
information is not
so
public
when
knowledge.
I'm sure there's legal stuff when you like kind of merge. You know, when they got put into the sweatshop of Call of Duty, right? I'm pretty sure they're not going to be called for Bob, are they? I don't
think
know.
they are.
I don't see why they wouldn't be.
Okay, well,
I don't see why they
we'll
wouldn't
see.
be.
But you know, when you put them on something and kind of merge them so much, they kind of lose themselves a little bit, and it's really hard. Maybe Microsoft. It's either. Oh my god, I don't want to say the wrong thing here. Maybe the costs to keep that studio going isn't worth it for Microsoft in its entirety. So maybe it's just way expensive for them. And instead of dissolving and destroying these people's lives and firing them all, it's better just to say, hey, look, go do your own thing. We'll make a contract. We'll help you out. And Microsoft doesn't really have to think about anything else. They could do their own financing. Maybe there's legal stuff going on. We don't know, but this is quite an interesting way to kind of distance yourself from an expense, but also hold their hand and keep a friendly relationship.
Yeah,
I don't see why
my
not.
I'd buy
theory-
that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say,
Don't buy it
I'd
until you've
buy
heard
that
my
and
theory.
actually. Okay, all right, can do.
My theory is actually very, very similar. My theory is that Toys for Bob were on the chopping block a few weeks ago, and that studio was going to be cut entirely as part of Microsoft's restructuring. And the owners who founded Toys for Bob said, "Hang about, like don't cut our heads off. We can work something out. We can afford to run this studio. Like, give us an opportunity to buy ourselves back and run independently." That is my complete guesswork theory of how this circumstance has arisen, because it is an unusual one.
Yeah,
it quite makes sense, but it makes sense in that in a way, right? But we'll see. Sorry, Deadly.
Makes
go ahead.
sense when you consider
I was just going to say
humans
they've
involved
yeah,
and the potential that some of them
absolutely.
might be nice.
Yeah, and I think out of all of the sort of, because I know Toys for Bob's name did come up a few weeks ago, and people kind of just went, "What? It's happening again?" Because it came up. That name was floated just after the 1,900 people that got laid off from were across Microsoft's gaming arm. Actually, it wasn't just Activision Blizzard King, was it? And I think, am I right in thinking we heard talk about Toys for Bob's office being relocated,
Yes.
or they were sort of
Close, I
working
think, yeah.
remotely, and just to sort of round this off, I guess, because I think you guys have hit the nail on the head. It seems like the most sort of reasonable and logical kind of option that would have been on the table for them. Or it's not really an option if they've gone, "Hey, Toys for Bob, we're thinking about closing you. What have you got?" Toys for Bob have said that our friends at Activision and Microsoft have been extremely supportive of our new direction, and we're confident that we will continue to work closely together as part of our future. So I think largely, yes, it sounds like they are moving to sort of a at arm's length relationship, but in a nice way, not like a sort of we don't really like you anymore sort
Yeah.
of way. So that's good.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
this is not the only studio that's doing this, right, guys? There's Saber that's kind of distancing themselves from Embracer and stuff like that,
So
right?
Yeah,
what
Embrace is an
happened
interesting
here?
one. This one's actually a lot more simple, I think. There were already a lot of talk around Gearbox potentially doing it. So we all know that Embracer hoovered up as much as they could and are falling to pieces and are in dire straits themselves, trying to recoup whatever money they can, shutting down studios, shutting down people as much as they can. If any studio within Embracer, like any offers made, Embracer entertaining them and selling their studios as much as they can. In the case of Saber, they bought themselves back, and this is going to be a transaction for a reasonable price to get themselves out of it. There was a lot of talk that Gearbox are going to do the same. Gearbox and Randy Pitchford has a fair amount of money kicking around. They were also at huge risk at Embracer, and there was talk that they're either going to be sold off if the right partner comes along and offers them the right money, or they will buy themselves back in the way that Saber have. Saber are a relatively big, very competent, pretty successful studio. So they're going to be fine operating, either making their own games or partnering with other people, as they often have done before. The studios that people have, co-development, we'll get onto your other one in a minute as well. It's a big thing in the industry, and Saber were like very, very good at doing that. They've done it with a lot of different partners in the past. The other ones that people have a constant eye on are Crystal Dynamics and Eidos as well, that we know that Embracer own. We know they're super talented studios, and we know that they're currently doing partnership work with Microsoft, but it's all eyes on them to see how they escape the crushing death machine that Embracer appears to have become.
Yeah.
But so Saber, we just mentioned the prospect of co-development. It is a big thing in the industry, especially in the AAA space, where one studio is not necessarily enough to get a project over the line. You were looking into Gamzly, the work that InXile are doing with Clockwork Revolution, and a co-development studio there. What's going on?
Oh my god. Well, let me pull that up because I freaking out of all this stuff. Yeah, no, I got it. There's so Shapeshifter games are like we took this all as a bad thing. I'm pretty sure everybody's like, oh my god, Shapeshifter games, Volition people that made like Saints Row and stuff are gonna co-develop Clockwork Revolution. Well, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like, as studios kind of branch off or buy their own independence back and whatever, you're gonna see a lot of this stuff. Developing video games right now is so hectic and very expensive, and a lot of studios could get their bread from just helping somebody make a thing. So that's usually what happens. We need to relax when we see stuff like this happen. So Clockwork Revolution is being made by InXile, and it's being co-developed by Shapeshifter Games. We all doom and gloom, but the biggest games in the world get co-developed. For instance, Smash Brothers from Nintendo. Do you know that? Do you know that game, guys? Smash Brothers. Do you know it, Deadly?
I
How about
do.
you,
I'm not a
Asa?
fan,
Do you know?
but I'm aware
Oh,
of it.
okay.
Yeah,
Do
I've
you
heard of
know?
it.
Do you
It's all
know?
right.
Do you know that Fire Emblem is also co-developed?
Yeah,
Do you
of
know that,
course.
Asa? Did
Yeah,
you
I know
play a
everything. But
Fire Emblem game?
Microsoft also have a lot of form for co-development with Flight Sim and Age of Empires and all of these kind of things. Like, it's not new to
Exactly.
them. Perfect Dark with Crystal
Yes.
Dynamics in the pipeline.
Yes, and also, when we're talking about Toys for Bob branching off and doing their independent thing, and why would you let them go and then do this thing? It's like, guys, Pokemon is not even owned by Nintendo, and they make it for Nintendo. They have partnerships. Partnerships are here. They've been around for freaking decades. They produce huge games for a lot of people, and I think this is awesome. I think it's awesome, and I think we should like pump the brakes on the doom and gloom a little bit. I can't wait for Clockwork Revolution. What do you think of, like, you guys haven't
Yes,
played
the
Saints
games.
Row?
Thank you.
Yeah, you
Oh, you're
haven't
going to
played
ask Saints Row. I thought you were going to
Row.
ask Clockwork Revolution. So I've got
No, but
I've got the new
hold on,
Saints Row
have
that
you?
was lambasted for its change of tone, but I haven't
Yeah.
personally gone through it yet.
Okay. Volition knows how to make a fun game. They're talented developers. I'm super excited for them to get any work at any work. I mean, they're a big studio. Clockwork, are you excited, Headley?
Yeah, I am actually. Because
Does this
it's
give
sort
you
of
pause though? Does this like freak you out that the guys from Saints Row are co-developing Clockwork?
not particularly. I try and not sort of tar a game with a brush like that, like this early out, because we haven't seen like a huge amount. But yeah, I will admit I did avoid Saints Row based on the feedback that it had. I've heard some mixed reviews, but largely not great. I think Clockwork looks interesting because it's that kind of, it's got that sort of BioShock Infinite steampunk sort of vibe to it, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of anything else because it's InXile, isn't it? I'm trying to think what else by InXile I might have played.
Wasteland.
I actually didn't play Wasteland. No, I didn't play Wasteland.
Oh, you should.
You know,
Wasteland
we're
2 is
gonna
really
make a
good.
segment. We're gonna make a segment on what
Honestly-
do we recommend. Headley.
Honestly,
Put it next.
the list of games that I haven't played is, I'm embarrassed about how long it is. I'm not gonna lie.
That's not just you, that's
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, man. No,
It's
like
bad. It's gonna be a recurring theme as we go. By the way,
no, InXile is so good. I can't wait for Clockwork Revolution. I can't wait to see. Hopefully it's good, so we could like put to rest like, co-development teams are, will dictate the path. It's like we looked at, like, can you guys even tell me one studio that works on Smash?
No.
but again, I
No.
don't really
See,
follow
so that's
Smash.
why I'm so tired of it, guys. These games are gonna be amazing, and just because a dev that might have an iffy background working on something, don't
Gamzly.
flip out.
Who made The Last of Us Part 2?
Who made The Last of Us
Who
Part 2?
made, yeah.
Naughty
What
Dog.
studio made that?
And like 500 studios.
Naughty Dog and about 500 outsourced
Yeah.
studios. You can bet your ass some of them were not very recognizable or had games in their repertoire that didn't meet like massive critical success. So you're right. Clockwork Revolution, I wouldn't consider it remotely like concerning that these former Volition devs are working on it. Volition's a well-established, long-running studio with a lot of talent in there. So the fact that they had a bad, like, it was the tone that was wrong in Saints Row more so than anything else, and that apparently came from the publisher level. That was rather pushed onto them, which may or may not be true. Like, I don't want to attribute the whole student storyline to publishers rather than the developers or whatever. I don't know who's responsible, but it's pretty safe to say when Volition were closed down and they formed up as a new studio, Shapeshifters, they would have taken the good people. Whoever's running that thing would offer those jobs to the good people, and you're going to have talent there. Talent that is ready and available to help. InXile, who were a relatively small studio, Microsoft acquired them whenever it was, 2017, like a while ago now. But they were a small studio, and Wasteland was quite a big game, but quite a buggy game. And it's difficult to get acquired by a Microsoft and grow your staff. It's not so difficult now because there's loads of people around, but quite difficult to grow in size, grow in scale, and be able to scope up a bigger game. They're doing that with Clockwork Revolution. Outsourcing to partners just makes a hell of a lot of sense. But Clockwork Revolution itself, though, because I like the games more than the studios and all the rest of it. Deadly Headley. Right. You mentioned you like it for the vibe, but you've not played the other InXile ones. That's no good. Gamzly, you can answer instead. Tell me about Clockwork Revolution. Is it high on your list of like games in the Xbox pipeline, or is it a meh?
InXile, remember that one in episode 1 I was talking about, like InXile used to be under the same umbrella as Obsidian and all those people, right? They all worked on, they have knowledge of working on Fallouts. all these guys in these studios, InXile, Obsidian, etc., these guys have made the biggest, best RPGs to ever come out on PC and onward. They have a pedigree, they have passion for it, and it's all like they're mostly original guys. Like they're mostly original people. They've whether it's an umbrella company and they went down and then they branched off into new studios, kind of like what's happening in the world right now. They all share DNA and now they're under one place again. And InXile are beasts at this stuff. Go play InXile games. Anything that says InXile, go play it. You'll see the roots. Yes, I'm excited. Clockwork Revolution looks insane. They've always been a talented studio, but haven't flexed their muscles in like the 3D kind of environments, and I can't wait to see what they do there. But I'm super excited. It looks amazing. Don't you find that it looks amazing? Like it looks wacky and amazing.
I love the look of it. I also
Very
love because I really
Bioshock.
did like Wasteland 3. Now, if you enjoy Baldur's
Yeah.
Gate and had Deadly Headley, you would probably love Wasteland 3. It's a post-apocalyptic setting, but in terms of the way that you can build out your characters and the choices that you can make as you go through it, like both in and out of combat, Wasteland 3 is very much the same genre as Baldur's Gate 3.
Nice.
And to see them visit a game, different perspective, but keeping that DNA of like choice and consequence. Choice and consequence is really central here because it's all about like time travel, popping back in time, changing things, and seeing how it impacts the present day. And it's a lot for them to take on, but if there's subtlety in it, if there's nuance in it, if you can really like impact things in surprising ways, this could be a hell of a game. And it's obviously slightly under the radar, mostly because Microsoft haven't really started the marketing push for it yet. So the developer direct was more about Avowed and the 4-5 games that were in that, more so than it was about Clockwork Revolution. But definitely keep your eye on it because InXile make games that are good.
So
I've sold
good.
you on it, haven't I?
Like,
Next week we're going to come
we
back and then
talked-
he's going to go, I've
It's
done
a
the
really
whole of
strong
Wasteland
top
3.
line.
Yeah, Headley, like I swear to God, man, like if you loved, you were talking about in the beginning of the podcast that you really do like D&D and you really got into Baldur's Gate 3 because of it. All these studios that I mentioned, Obsidian used to be Black Isle Studio, all that stuff.
Yep.
All these guys built their first games in the D&D world. Like all the games they've built have been in the
Okay.
D&D world, right? I forgot
did
the
not know
name.
that.
It was
That's
in
interesting.
the notes, the episode notes in episode 1. But Nightingale? No, not Nightingale. Is it Nightingale? Anyways, Baldur's Gate and Nightingale. Fuck, I wish I had the list with me, but they've made really classic RPGs and they're all in the same universe and they were D&D nerds and it's just you need to play these games. Go play Wasteland 3. Start with that because 1 and 2 had a little bit of they had issues that they really did iron out in the third game. It's a great starting point. Go do that
Okay.
stuff quickly.
I'm going to add that to my increasingly long backlog. But
Put it
after
on the
Baldur's
top.
Gate
It's
3,
one of the
I
put it on the top. It's a good RPG.
Okay, I can do that.
Perfect. Right. Gamzly, what's our next topic?
Oh my
I'm
goodness,
being
why are you
lazy and putting my
asking me,
feet
man?
up. I'm sipping some wine. Because you've got a
While
whole
Gamzly
document in
figures
front of
that
you.
out, while Gamzly figures that
I'm-
out, I am very kindly going to ask the chat to hit the like button for us.
Oh yeah,
Because
please
it
do.
helps us show up on other people's feeds and helps the channel grow and all that good stuff. And
right,
while
I-
I've got you here, just thanks for all the support that you guys have shown because it's awesome.
Yeah, so we hit
Well
everything
said.
pretty well. Let's talk about Halo. So, oh no, not Halo. By the way, out of all this stuff, what I'm really happy about is Remedy buying.
Control.
They bought Control back from 505
Mm.
Games Publishing for 17 million. What do we think about that? That's a pretty fair price, right? That's insanely fair. I think.
It's a lot of money for something that they did all the work on. Obviously, 505
It's
funded
true.
Control, and I don't think there's any hard feelings between Remedy and 505 in terms of how this came to be. They obviously think that the price is worth paying, so they're paying it, but it includes, so Control, the IP itself and the game that's already out, the sequel, so Control 2, and there's a multiplayer game that they're making in that universe as well, which is pretty damn exciting because much as Remedy aren't known for their combat and stuff, Control had some fun shit going on that I'd like to use on other people's bookshelves.
Control was cool. I actually really want to pick that up again because I liked it a lot. I thought it was very, very cool.
Yeah, it was so good. And when it was on Game Pass, it was on Game Pass pretty early, right?
It was, yeah. I did actually buy it, so it was. I need to finish it, to be fair. But I remember. I think the standard Xbox One version came out to Game Pass, but they basically said like we've also got a optimized for current gen, or at the time still technically next gen, blah, 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 version, and that was pretty well priced. And I remember picking that up because
it was controversial at the time. This was, you mentioned it, I'm coming back. So 505 got a lot of stick and heat for this because most games, particularly on the Microsoft side of things, were doing free upgrades. This was one of the first ones that caused the stink.
Yeah, and I remember jumping on it because at the time it was really difficult to. I remember feeling quite similar to a lot of guys that I was listening to on podcasts where they just wanted like that visual showpiece title quite early on in the gen that just didn't really kind of make itself present. I know I was quite hoping to be quite impressed with Watch Dogs Legion because that had ray tracing, but it only ran at 30 FPS, and while London looked kind of pretty, it was also a bit shit, and just sort of feeling a little bit kind of, is this the generational leap that we're all supposed to be hyped for? And then I remember picking up Control, and it being that sort of, we're gonna make you pay for this next gen upgrade, even though Microsoft is sort of launching everything with this sort of well, smart delivery was optional, wasn't it? That was the caveat. You didn't have to adopt it as a developer, but you also sort of had to be prepared to look like a bit of an arsehole if you weren't going to. And clearly Remedy went, yeah, fuck it, we'll take that hit.
Not Remedy. That was
not Remedy.
505's decision.
Excuse me. Yeah. It's 505. 505 went, nah, we'll look like dicks.
Which, to be fair though, like from a publisher perspective, they were paying to get that upgrade work done, so you can kind of see both sides of it. But I just really quickly want to get this super chat. Darge Knight, thank you, Darge. He says, "Evening, sexy boy." So I'm not sure who he's talking to. Must be watching something else. Not Xbox focused, but who would you guys like to buy Gearbox from Embracer?
Oh God. I just want to see Gearbox. I know this is probably, I'm sorry, I'm going to take this. I know this is probably crazy. I rather them go independent again. If they could afford it, I rather them go independent and just do their thing.
Gamzly hates Game Pass.
What the fuck? No.
Supposed to say Microsoft, so all of their games go on Game Pass. That's the correct answer. But no,
that's what I would want. I wish, but it's not very good for everyone else. But yes, I want to see them independent. I want to see them flex their creative muscles again. Hopefully, they have enough money to do that. Do they? I don't know.
I think this sort of independence move may be a trend that we're seeing. I think like Larian last year actually really proved that being an independent studio was not a bad thing, and that actually you could do.
But they were lucky,
quite a lot.
They were lucky. They got a bag from Stadia. They got a bag from literally like Stadia was dying, giving them money, then went through their contract anyways, gave them more money.
Luck's not fair credit. I don't know, man. They're also massively talented and had a lot of successes behind them. There are an awful lot of studios 100%, that fell apart.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to shit on Larian. It's just that, you know, when all these developers, remember when they were coming out being like, yeah, Larian is like this like magical scenario. It's like, well, they kind of were, because they had their time and they were getting funded for it. You know, and it's just they had a lot of time to do what they needed, and I don't think other independent studios have that time and budget to do it. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
So Larian to me was like a special case.
Larian's definitely a special case, and good for them. We've also had one membership gifted by Pete as well that went to Lethal Migrants, and welcome to the community, and thank you so much for that, Pete, as well. Where were we?
Yeah, continue, Deadly. I'm so sorry. I cut Deadly off in the middle of his sentence.
Oh, I
I'm sorry,
completely
Deadly.
forgot.
Oh no.
I think I was done. I think I was
I'm
done.
sorry.
We were talking.
No,
We were
no, a
talking about
trend. You were
control.
talking about trends in the independent sphere. We're
Oh,
gonna
No,
see.
Deadly Headley was going to say, I hope that Microsoft buy everybody just because we need that perspective. It's expected. Somebody say it.
yeah.
No.
Sorry. So someone's got to be the mindless Xbox fan on this panel. So yeah, I'll take the bullet. No, I think that studios going independent and potentially sort of part of that is amicable agreements with publishers or parent companies to sort of go, if we can work in a more agile way, if we can have more independence over what we do and put less earnest on appeasing your shareholders, does this make us more viable as a studio? Does this allow us to soak up some of the talent pool that has been displaced following the seemingly endless barrage of layoffs that keep on hitting the industry? Maybe that contributes towards this sort of idea of the industry rebalancing that we talked about a little bit earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm.
That was
So
it. That
Alvin,
was the point.
Alvin, thank you so much for another super chat. He's wow. Alvin has said, for all his foibles, Randy P created my favourite franchise ever. I hope whatever happens with Gearbox is ultimately best for the IP. He's enjoying the show. He is, of course, talking about Battleborn, hoping that Gearbox's resurgence brings back Battleborn. I think he's probably talking about Borderlands. That's what Gearbox are most famous for, is the Borderlands franchise. They do have other things in their little
Battleborn was
repertoire
amazing,
as well.
man. I'm so bad.
I'm
so
not saying
sad for
Battleborn was bad. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Battleborn. It was actually quite
You know-
nice. It's just Overwatch just swept the crap out of them, sadly.
That is sad. I quite like Battleborn as well. It was a little bit visually noisy for me, but I probably preferred it over Overwatch, generally speaking. Underrated, says Replicant. So Battleborn's got a little fan club here.
Yeah, Battleborn was quite nice. It was just completely overshadowed and blindsided by Blizzard when it was at its peak almost. Just got shat on by Overwatch, but good game.
Historically, that's something Blizzard have been very good at, is stomping on their competitors with some fairly sinister marketing tactics in general. Like, fair play to them. They're supposed to be competitive, but they probably did very deliberately. Every time there was any kind of Battleborn news due to drop, Overwatch would have had news on the same day, because they've always been very meticulous in countering their competitors' marketing bubble.
Correct.
Whether that'll still be the case now that they're owned, I don't know.
Now, Deadly.
Yes.
Tell me about Halo, please, God. Tell me about how amazing it is.
Happily. So I did mention last week that episode 4 of Halo Season 2 was spectacular. I don't want to spoil too much, and actually, it's Gamzly and Asa. First of all, have either of you actually watched any of Season 2 yet, or are you going to wait until it is sort of finished in its entirety and then binge it, or
binge it?
You're going to binge it?
Well, at some point, I wouldn't put a time frame on it. I've not watched Season 1 yet. And I wasn't interested in Season 1, but you're about to tell me it's incredible, and everybody is saying that it's incredible. So
I'm not gonna tell you that Season 1 is incredible, but I will say that you should watch it going into Season 2. If you hated Season 1 with a passion, and every single decision that was made there might be some things that you take umbrage with Season 2, but if it's similarly, you would put yourself in the camp of being an OG Halo fan, you are going to be very impressed with what this season does. Episode 4, we know that we start seeing the fall of Reach that has clearly been shown in all of the marketing and stuff, and Episode 4 is really the start of that pivotal point. What I will say about Episodes 4 and 5 is they have portrayed the Human Covenant War in a much more visceral way than I was expecting them to. There is a lot of focus on Chief, but Chief is not doing the Chief things that you would expect. If you think episodes 4 and 5 are just going to be and Halo and Master Chief in his helmet doing all sorts of Master Chief things.
That same music's playing, but he's getting the cheeks. He's getting.
I haven't seen Cheeks. I haven't seen Cheeks. I again trying not to spoil anything too much here, but what I will say is it has gone in a direction that I didn't expect, but in a positive way versus how a lot of people received season 1. It's clearly set up some very interesting things that go far deeper than I would have expected them to this early with the Halo lore. So I think for anyone who does know the Halo universe very well, you have Gamzly. I might need your help here because I actually can't remember the is it Gaish? It's kind of like a sort of almost like a spiritual imprint that sort of transcends generations.
That's it, but
yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
starting to see a few whispers of that, or just a few hints of interesting nuggets of Halo lore that if you are very, very familiar with it, they will start making themselves apparent to you. I'm very, very impressed with it. I have a lot of good things to. I just have a lot of good feelings about where the Halo series is at right now. I think there are 4 episodes left. So episode 5 came out today. So you can watch that on Paramount Plus now. Yes, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Obviously, a little bit of a ways down the road, but yeah, I'm not going to talk about episode titles. I have seen the episode titles. I remember some of them towards the back end of the season, but again, I'm not going to spoil that.
I have a question.
Go on.
I'm actually just going to ask you some questions about it. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay.
What
So
do I
you
do with
said
my
that
face while you're asking?
Master Chief.
Instruct
just
me. What's my
touch
role
it
in this?
and just touch it.
Okay,
touch
carry
it.
on.
Yeah, and smile at me.
I can't. I don't know how to smile. Go on, carry on with the questions.
Anyways, so you were talking about how Master Chief doesn't do his Master Chief thing. Is some of that like well, sorry, let me rephrase. You say he does his Master Chief thing, but not as you expect. Do you wish it was as you expect? Like, do you wish it was in another way, Master Chief?
I really, really don't want to spoil stuff, but I guess what I can say is that in the same way as you could imagine the Fall of Reach starting, a lot of people were taken by surprise by this. So you
in your
can
opinion,
expect
good or bad? Yes or no?
As in if you were in the shoes of someone who was on Reach, you would absolutely have been taken by surprise by Covenant invading Reach.
Satisfied?
I really don't want to spoil stuff, but I'm
just yes or no questions then. Yeah,
I'm satisfied
with it.
Yes.
So like
absolutely.
the things that they do that's different in your mind that what Chief would do, you're satisfied with those things.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well,
I'm gonna try and just get a quick. Has anyone asked any questions in chat? Not really, but that's fine. I'm gonna try and avoid spoiling
chat,
stuff.
I think
what I would really like to do is have some sort of kind of post-series chat where we can sort of talk about how it went and sort of, I don't know, we don't need to go through episode by episode.
Yeah.
Maybe a spoiler cast, but I do appreciate that would still sort of alienate quite a few people. And again, like, you guys haven't watched it, so it's basically just going to be be going around in circles without trying to spoil anything, but tell you
Look,
how
you said
fucking great it is.
you said you said it's infinitely better. See what I did there?
So
Infinite.
nice, very very
better.
nice. I think let me try and give you some highlights. So highlights for me, there is a character called Ackerson who does show up in the books. He's not really referenced in the games, but he is a shadowy Oni figure. He is played very very well. Dr. Halsey, her character is very interesting in this series as well. She was sort of painted as. Go on.
Do they use Cortana, like the same actor for both, or not?
No. So in season 1, it's a bit weird. I don't really know why they've done it, but I'm kind of just. It's fine. It is what it is. These things happen in television. In season 1, they used Jen Taylor's voice and face. In season 2, they have completely changed Cortana's face to the point where she actually looks a little bit more like she does in the video games. But now nothing like Jen Taylor.
Completely changed Cortana's boobs for Halo 4.
I mean, Cortana changes every single Halo game, like dramatically, and we all just sort of take it at face value. Yes, including boobs.
I hated the way that they did that in Halo 4. That they tried to make Cortana a love interest in a way that she never had been before, and they tried to make her more seductive. And it's like,
they sort of Chief woke up from a sleep, and all of a sudden, Cortana had some. Just
his AI got curvy,
yeah.
So that's I don't know where I'm going with that.
Boinkers.
Get bored in space, right?
Oh man, where did we go with this topic? What's going on?
I got bored of touching
Halo's
my face
good,
while you were
right?
talking.
Yes.
How about Halo Infinite, the
good.
game though? Because they added a whole bunch of new maps, and we played some of those on Sunday. This is not to cut off if you still had more to say on the TV series, but yeah, you missed it. Big Team Battle. They added 5 new maps in. Previously,
I can't believe I
Big
missed
Team
that
Battle
too.
when the game came out, it had like 3 maps. There was like one good map, one okay map, and one utterly shite map. Now they've added 5 into the mix, which is quite a bit more diversity in the playlist than there was before. And most of them, as far as I can tell, they've rehashed things from previous games and stuff like that. But they look nice, and they so far haven't been awful. There's one map where you just get shot from every angle all of the time, but they're not bad, and they've improved the playlist a lot for me. So neither of you have had a chance to touch it though. That's a shame. Are you intending to?
I
Do you still
did
like
jump
the
into
multiplayer?
the. I did jump into the updated Big Team list, so I did play the new maps that were added. And yeah, you're right. A couple of them are really really good, but yeah, there's one that's just a bit sort of. I can't remember which one it was. I do really like the remake of Headlong. I think the only real gripe that I have about Halo Infinite is pause.
Where is this podcast going? Gamzly.
Anyway,
Sorry.
Gamzly, have you played Halo Infinite?
Yeah, of course. I mean, not the recent map stuff, but yes, I've played it. Actually, I beat the crap out of that campaign, and I had at least 25 hours in the multiplayer. But not recent.
We're getting new Halo content on Tuesday, by the way, or we're getting something on Tuesday.
Right.
Something's been teased for the 5th, and I remember that because it is my birthday on Tuesday. Very excited.
Oh man,
Not anymore.
happy
Now it's
birthday.
Halo News Drop Day. You have to find a different date.
It can be Halo News Drop Day instead. That's fine.
Well,
right.
let's do Gamzly's Game Pass recommendation for the week. So the Game Pass recommendations, if you've been following this podcast week on week, started really freaking badly with Potato and Go Mechable. Week 2, still pretty freaking awful with Anacard. Week 3 and week 4, though, he's upped his game. He's gone for Resident Evil 2 Remake and then Tales of Arise, which I've not had a chance to play Tales of Arise. I can't tell you if it was definitely a good choice, but I'm pretty sure it is. It's on my list. I'm going to play it. It's a long game, so I can't fit that in the space of a week. Let's see though. Make or break time. Are Gamzly's recommendations worth listening to? Gamzly, what you got this
Are
week?
you ready? Are you done? Are you done? Yeah. Okay. So last week, as you know, I recommended Bluey.
No, you didn't.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't. I did. No, I will recommend. Sadly, I don't like anything that was added. This this week, there's nothing really interesting to me. Maneater is super fun, but I didn't play it recently. I just remember Maneater being a blast, but Brotato's a blast, and all of you hate me for recommending Brotato. So
I'm on the
I'm
losing side
hesitant
of
to
that one. I
recommend.
acknowledge.
I really hesitant to recommend Maneater, but I'm gonna fucking do it anyways because I want to see the
I've
world
played
burn. So
Maneater.
Maneater, go play that thing. It's fun as shit. You play
I've
a
played
shark
Maneater.
and you eat
It's
people. That's all you
it's
do.
okay.
It's amazing.
It's okay. But yeah,
Just
you do play as
go
a
have
shark and eat
fun.
people. That is quite cool.
Yeah,
It's
go
cool.
have fun with
This
that.
is
So that's my
a
recommendation.
last minute pivot because on the document that he draws up, he put Dead Island 2, and I was thinking, well, I can already say that is a good game from what I can tell. So he's redeemed himself with the recommendations, but Maneater I haven't played yet, so now I've got homework to do before we can.
You know what it
judge
was?
you.
You shat talk me for 5 minutes getting to the goddamn recommendations. So I switched it, and I hope you guys have a bad time. No, Maneater's really fun. You actually can't go wrong with Maneater, but Dead Island 2 is also we were talking about it on the top of the podcast. Fun game.
Did you
Don't
finish
skip it.
Maneater? Is Maneater one that you
Did I
actually played
finish
through,
it?
or is it just a yeah?
I got halfway through. What about
you,
I didn't
Deadly
complete
Headley?
it all the way, so
Yeah, I can't remember how far through I got. I can't remember how many areas there are, but I think I got to the third one and sort of put it down. It's okay. It's all right. It's one of those things where you just sort of get to kind of you pick it up to go and cause some chaos and don't really have to take it too seriously.
Yeah, that's not like an
all right.
indictment on the game, really, is it?
So-
Like, it's fine. There are games that work like that. You play for fun. If you told me that you'd started
Yeah.
Tales of Arise and you didn't finish that, then I would say that's like failed in its purpose of being a gripping story. But Maneater doesn't need a gripping story. You're a shark and you just eat people and stuff.
like Brotato, you know what I mean?
Wow, it's going to be more eventful than like Brotato. Otherwise, I'm
Still
going to
haven't
be mad at
finished
you.
Potato.
You know what? I'm gonna prep the audience right now. So here's the prep. It's either I'm gonna tell you. So I play everything that pops up in Game Pass, so you don't need to. So my recommendations from now on are gonna be good games that I find isn't a complete waste of time, and you get some fun out of it. Kind of like Helldivers, terrible game but really fun. Don't do that. Helldivers 2 is amazing. Go play that game. I'm gonna recommend good games that are fun to pick up, a good time to play through, however many hours you want to play through it. And then I'm going to, if I play a bad game, I'm going to tell you, hey guys, this is a terrible fucking game. Don't do that. Sorry for my swear words. So that's how I'm going to structure them. So if I recommend something, it's not game of the year. I'll say if it's game of the year, but I'm not saying it's game of the year. I'm just saying it's fun. You'll enjoy it. It's for someone. Go do that. And the bad ones, I'll let you know. All right? How about that?
It's
that
not
good?
like now I feel
All right.
guilty because I feel like I've put too much pressure on you. It's not that serious. You don't need to
No,
play
no.
every single thing on Game Pass, and your
No, no.
recommendations
I'm
were
gonna
good
do-
entertainment. So I apologize for breaking
I love
Gamzly.
playing games. So
Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world to try him, is it? So.
Mhm.
Right, let's do then. You've got your Game Pass recommendation. Some people in there, I've not seen anyone say Maneater's terrible. You've only got people agreeing and saying that it's a good recommendation, it's a blast and
I know.
worth playing. Let's go
welcome.
on to our questions. I don't know if there are going to be many, but let's get the first question up and we'll take it from there.
And while you do that, guys in the chat, everybody that's watching, we don't say it or mention it often, but a quick share, a like, anything. A quick share means a lot. If you like this and you like goofing around with us, maybe other people are gonna like it. So share it to them. They'll thank you. Kind of like a great brotato recommendation from Gamzly. It's like, oh, check this
Don't leave
weird
with that.
podcast out. You might like
It
it.
does. I also want to give
Go do
a
that.
quick shout out to any of the other creators in the community who have given us a shout out on their podcasts. It's like we do hear it, we do see it, and we really appreciate it. So thank you for that, because it's
Yeah.
been really nice to be welcomed into this space in the way that we have as sort of a brand new show. So yeah, we do appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely. Right. Illegal Dad has asked, will the PlayStation 5 Pro be successful depending on whether GTA 6 is optimized for it?
Ooh.
I'm going to flip
So-
that back on its head and just give a quick shout out to our good friend Fonz, who I think it was Fonz and Hagi on Fonz's show who made a really good point about the fact that Red Dead 2 did not run at 60 on either the PS4 Pro or the Xbox One X. It actually still doesn't run at 60 on the Series X or the PS5, which is a damn travesty because Red Dead 2 is fantastic. I hope that it is optimized for the PS5 Pro, because it would be nice to see. And it's completely taking any console worry arguments out of the equation, because I actually think it would be quite damaging for Xbox if it ran at 60 on the PS5 Pro and didn't run at 60 on the Xbox Series X. And there was no quote unquote pro console version for the Xbox. I think that does potentially put Xbox in quite a precarious position as far as the power narrative is concerned. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, now that you mention it, we were going to talk about that, weren't we? So
we
put
were
aside,
briefly, actually.
Well, we can bring it up. It doesn't make sense to fit that in there. We were going to talk about the rumors of the all digital discless Xbox Series X revision that is potentially due at the end of the year. Potentially, if you follow the rumors, it might end up being white or it might not. And potentially going up against a PlayStation 5 Pro. So the rumor pretty much lines up with what we already knew from Microsoft's FTC case, where they were going to do an adorably all digital Series X with a 2 terabyte drive and no disk drive. Microsoft at the time said, yeah, like, there was truth in those plans, but plans can change, which was a little bit of a bluff, probably. The plans probably haven't changed. That thing probably still exists and is probably still coming. Gamzly, what does that look like? Like, is there value in an all-digital Series X? Do you get upset that it's all-digital? And how does that sit in the market against the PlayStation 5 Pro?
My God, I think it's. I don't think it does. It doesn't move a needle at all in any direction. I don't know. I think a Series X. I don't know. This is such a nothing burger to me. If they choose to do this, they're just giving people options, and I don't even know if maybe there's a price cut. If there's a price cut, it could be a little bit more significant for the news, but like as it stands now, we know that they're trying to push digital. We know that everybody's trying to push digital. So it won't hurt them detrimentally. Releasing an only digital console, but if they're going against a pro version of a competitor, and it's significantly more powerful, it's already not doing well anyways. So I don't see where it shifts the needle in any direction, really. Like, if their plans was always not to make something on par with a pro or whatever, then again, it's a nothing burger. They're gonna they're gonna float right now. We already know their plans. We already know where they're trying to go. It's a long game. It's a long play. They're trying to do a different strategy. We'll see where that leads. But yeah, digital or not digital, I don't see it moving any needles back, forth. I don't know. They're just gonna be there for an option, and that's it.
The only way I
optics are
can see it
slightly
moving
awkward,
a
though, aren't
needle.
they? Like the optics,
only-
because if
Go on,
Microsoft
Asa.
were just releasing this thing, then you'd be like, yeah, cool, they're just releasing a revision of the console. That's perfectly fine and normal. If they release it in a similar time frame to a PlayStation 5 Pro, then there are going to be people that are confused by that think that these things are supposed to go head to head and are supposed to compete.
Yeah, but does it hurt? Does it
hurt or help that people think it's something that it isn't?
Yeah, but
indeed.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It kind of it goes back and it just stays neutral. It's just like non-offensive and not overly dramatic. It just kind of stays there. It doesn't move the needle anyway, back or forth. Like I said, I think it just, I don't know.
And what were you gonna?
It's
Sorry,
see
David,
it.
I cut you off.
I can see it appealing to casual Call of Duty players who have not moved up to this generation, because there are still
Good point.
people playing on last gen.
Yeah, but you have
And I
Series
think
S, right?
you do have a Series S, yes, but if there is a not cheaper, because obviously it won't be cheaper than the Series S, but if you have a more affordable, it's a bit of a misnomer, because I don't really consider the PS5 or the Xbox Series X to be quote unquote high end consoles. And I know that was a very silly sort of terminology sort of used in the like the FTC court case and stuff. But I think like the reality is that these consoles aren't nearly as powerful as the vision that may have been sold, but they still pack a significantly more potent punch than last gen hardware. You are still going to have people who haven't upgraded to this generation, and I think one of the things that Microsoft will have in its arsenal that it could launch alongside that would be a current gen only Call of Duty. We actually don't know where the next Call of Duty is launching, but at some point Call of Duty is going to have to ditch last gen. It just will. Whether or not that's this year, I don't know, but potentially it is something that Microsoft can go, you know how we've got all the marketing rights for Call of Duty, you know how we can put Call of Duty in Game Pass in theory, because we haven't had that confirmed, but I'm running on the basis that it's going to show up in Game Pass, and I will be surprised and disappointed if it's not.
Here's a more difficult question.
Go on.
Say, hypothetically, there is a PlayStation 5 Pro that comes out in like November or whatever, and there's a revision of the Xbox Series console, and there's a Call of Duty game. How should Microsoft handle the PlayStation 5 Pro version of Call of Duty?
That's the spot that I don't think they should be in. Like that's and it's a really weird one, because like the PS5 Pro is basically an open secret in the games industry at this point. Like everybody is just expecting that to come. At the moment, we're currently not expecting a similar move from Microsoft, but I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft may be reconsidering that. But you know, we've also heard from Phil Spencer that, again, I don't buy this one. I like Phil Spencer a lot, and I take a lot of what he says as at face value in executive language, because I think that caveat is really important. He says words like, I don't know, like some sort of magician that makes people hear the thing that they want to hear, but actually if you take his phrasing word for word, he skirts that sort of clarity line very, very carefully, and I do respect him for it. But when he said about the Xbox Series X being the mid-gen upgrade, I called bullshit on that. Like, that's sorry,
Same.
That's not good enough. It's not.
Can I skeet in here? Just
yeah,
so
go for
I
it,
don't
man.
forget. Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't think he was bullshitting. I think he's, from what we've seen in rumors and stuff, for them to kind of go not skip this generation, but go straight for next gen and develop next gen faster and set it on their terms. I think he's serious. And like I've been saying forever, I think they take about 2 Call of Duties to really start to see a big appeal shift from the Call of Duty base on PlayStation to the Call of Duty space on Xbox because of Game Pass. Here's why. I don't think this matters at all. If people associate, oh my god, look, this, they already do, by the way, associate Call of Duty still with PlayStation right now. So let's remember that, right? So if they come out, here's a PS5 Pro, Call of Duty's coming, bundle it with Xboxes, right? Don't do the bundle thing with PlayStation. Just have it side by side. They're going to sell so much of that game, it won't fucking matter anyway, right? They're going to sell so much of that game on both consoles that they're going to be like, well, this is a win-win, so it doesn't really matter. The bundles will sell Xboxes if they sell Xboxes, right? So I don't think the power narrative is going to have any effect on anyone right now. I don't think they expect to move more Xboxes right now anyways. I think they take the loss, they take the hit. The player base is the player base right now anyways. They're getting the money anyways. Who cares? Then when they skip that generation, right? When they say, here's Xbox Pro, I don't know, Pro X2, whatever the fuck, right? That's where they go next gen only. Here on Xbox, here in Game Pass, we're pushing the narrative, full-blown marketing. That's when we're going to see kind of a shift and turn, and people will come from last gen or whatever to this
So
gen.
you think
and that's where
if there's
we're
a
going to see
Call
the
of Duty at the
shift
tail end of this
coming
year,
back.
though, rather than the big shift later, you think if there is a Call of Duty at the tail end of this year, they should fully optimize it for the PlayStation 5 Pro and have the best console version be
Yes.
on PlayStation?
Yeah. It won't matter later. It won't matter. It doesn't matter. It won't matter. They don't care.
I think that because I would never advocate for not trying their best to deliver the best game that they can. Regardless of weird marketing circumstances and commercials, it would be unethical to not try your best to release the best game that you can on each of those platforms. That would be a slimy bastard business decision. So I hope that they do fully take advantage of that platform, but it does sit in a really awkward place. Like we bought ABK, here's Call of Duty, it plays far and away head and shoulders better on PlayStation than it does on Xbox because they've got a new console and we haven't, is a weird situation for them to be in.
Yeah, but you see, they see that the console right now, like all the doom and gloom stuff about the console never being able to sell, blah blah blah. They already see a stagnation. Okay, one Call of Duty, they know it's a cumulative, like as a whole, like all the games in Game Pass and all the games that are gonna come and what is the point. So one game won't shift the needle as they want. There's already 68 million or 60-ish million on PlayStation.
But what
they
about
know
Twitter?
very well. They
What
they
about
know
Twitter?
they know very well. They know very well that the hardcore PlayStation guys won't go sell in droves 10 million consoles and go buy an Xbox. They know that already. What they're thinking is, well, yeah, okay, let's just get the money from everywhere, right? Start building the mindset that Game Pass is here, come to Game Pass. And then when that next generation does come, and you see maybe the third Call of Duty or the second Call of Duty hit, and it's marketed that way, it's like, here's this is us, this is Call of Duty, the best place to play is here, we got the most powerful console, whatever, they go with that market beat again. That's where you see last gen people and Xbox, I don't know, now gen Xbox and some non-loyal PlayStation fans go over, because then it's a reset. And that's where they start to take off. That's where it's like, oh my god, Game Pass is here, this is here, that's there. Let's go. Indiana Jones 2 is there. Whatever, all on Game Pass. That's really a pusher.
Year one of Call of Duty on Game Pass. You're right. It's not that itself
Year
isn't
2 will come.
potent enough to move the needle.
Not
Year
yet.
2, possibly. Three Call of Duties in, with Microsoft going, here we are again, guys. We're back on the marketing beat, and oh yeah, it's in Game Pass. This is the home of Call of Duty, and we've drilled that home for two, 3 years.
Headley. It takes so much to shift.
It goes back
gear,
to that mind share
right?
that we talked about a few episodes ago, which is that's really Microsoft's biggest challenge in my eyes. It's how does it start achieving mind share? And I think Call of Duty as an IP is definitely one of the most potent ways of being able to try and claw some of that back. But it's going to take a very long time for people to
in that boardroom,
think Xbox
guys,
when they hear Call of Duty.
In that boardroom, guys, all the chat in that boardroom, you damn well believe that they're looking at each other and they wish they could pull the trigger. They wish that they could say Call of Duty, Explore. Yeah, they should just fucking shoot them.
They all hate each other.
They wish they could.
Every day is Russian roulette.
Yeah. They wish that they could be like, hey, Call of Duty exclusive on our platform. We're already we're the biggest platform. Everything's exclusive to us. Look at this. We're Xbox. But it's not the case. They wish they can do that, but right now they know, they're like, oh my god, 70% ish, I don't know the number, true number, are on the other platform and they're really dedicated there right now. It's gonna take some freaking time for that boat to switch back to Xbox like the 360 era to be like, this is the home of Call of Duty. It's gonna take some time. And it took time for PlayStation, by the way, for that to happen as well. It took a lot of time for the association to kind of switch, right? So just don't worry about it. I'm an Xbox guy.
I'm not worried. I don't even like Call of Duty.
Let's
Right,
go.
Illegal Dad, I hope we somewhere in that touched on your question.
Just to sort of, I just had a quick question for you, Asa, while we've still got Illegal Dad's question up. What do you think a PS5 Pro, and let's just, for argument's sake, let's say hypothetically that there is also an Xbox Series X Pro in the works, and I don't think there is, but I would like to be pleasantly surprised by that, just to make sure that Xbox doesn't shoot itself in the foot, but that's not important. The PS5, what do you think the PS5 Pro can offer this generation and players within it? Do you think it's worth doing? Because I personally don't really.
That's really tricky. The specs that we've seen leaked, there's a big question mark over any external like AI chip on top of what we already know about. So Tom Henderson leaked the specs of the PlayStation 5 Pro, and everything that Tom Henderson has leaked about PlayStation hardware has been exactly 100% correct. Sometimes a little vague on the details, but no wrong information whatsoever. So what he has said about it having 56 cores at whatever clock speed, that's all going to come true, and that puts it only moderately ahead of the Series X, like not a huge leap in performance. You've also got, from Sony's side of things, the issue with price. So whenever they were planning their hardware, they wouldn't have planned it with a view that the PlayStation 5 base model would still be the same price as it is. So they're in a really awkward position themselves in terms of how they price a Pro model, because expensive consoles typically haven't done very well. The advantage for them is that
it's
the Pro model doesn't need to sell. No, not particularly, but it doesn't need to be. That's the positive of a Pro console, is it's not an ecosystem in and of itself. It's not like the PSVR 2, where if they can't sell enough, then they can no longer afford to make games for it. A Pro console doesn't need to sell. It just needs to sate the hardcore audience to keep them ticking over. Because you can see in the console space on both sides of things at the moment, you can see people are already beginning to get frustrated with their consoles. Like, oh, I thought it was going to be super powerful, and 3 years into the generation, it's no longer cutting edge hardware. There is an audience right in the center that feel that way and are starting to feel that way, and the Pro consoles are for that audience, just to keep them ticking over for a bit longer, so the generation can last a bit longer. Microsoft's generational structure isn't the same, and they don't need to do that. They're going to have a brief window of time that is awkward when they're pitched up against the PlayStation 5 Pro, because particularly for Call of Duty and their own games, there is going to be a bit harder on the market that they don't have a direct answer for, and it is a bit of hardware that has like the most vocal fan base, because that core of people that are going to be interested are going to be the loudmouth, which is why I say, what about Twitter? What about Twitter?
This is probably a little bit more
important.
of a difficult. Is probably a little bit more of a difficult question then. Let's say hypothetically then the PS5 Pro is coming this year, and then again hypothetically middle towards the end of 2 years on, we see Xbox go early with a new generation of hardware. Is that a way of squeezing out PlayStation in a way that legally
yes and no
they're allowed to do?
They're not. So for the way that I see that is, I've always seen that as being what Microsoft are looking to do. They put an awful lot of money, research, investment into being able to smooth over generational transitions. So when Phil Spencer came out and said that stuff you were talking about earlier, where it's like, we've already got a Pro model and a base model, I agree and disagree with what he's saying, because the Series X is not the Pro model equivalent, but Microsoft's strategy has shifted, and that is kind of like closest equivalent, because they don't need Pro models anymore. They don't need the next generation of an Xbox console. Does not signify the end of this generation of Xbox console, and we've already seen that last time around. Like the Xbox One probably still gets games now. The generational shift is very, very different, which means Microsoft are positioned to like go early, as you say. But I don't consider it they're going early relative to what PlayStation are doing. Microsoft, I sincerely believe they don't care what PlayStation are doing. Like, it's not key to their strategy. Microsoft, they're executing their strategy, and what Sony do alongside it, they're going to have an awkward year with the Pro being around, but they're not reacting to what Sony are doing. They're doing their thing. Mm-hmm.
If that new console, if that new generation, let's say it does come a year or earlier than the PlayStation 6, and that is marketed with a next-gen Call of Duty, I know that there were parity agreements that were discussed between PlayStation and Microsoft to say that, okay, Call of Duty has to run the same on your platform as it does ours, but that doesn't account for a generational shift. Is that the silver bullet that Microsoft has and may potentially be sort of leaning on or depending on to help pull back the mind share that it has unfortunately lacked from a more casual mainstream audience by going, here's a brand new Call of Duty that you can only play here and you don't even have to pay for it?
The high-end audience is a funny one and a fickle one, and I don't actually, sadly, I don't think necessarily an important one. And I don't think any of Microsoft's broad strategic decisions are particularly made with us in mind.
By high-end audience, do you mean someone who may sort of care about buying that console day one?
The question that you've just asked, yeah, that audience, I'd like for them to be central and a focus for game development, but we're second to
because obviously the next
Call of Duty that's on mobile right now.
Yeah, because obviously Call of Duty, the next Call of, a Call of Duty that launches alongside a next gen console, for example, it's going to have a current gen version. It can't not.
Definitely,
yeah. It's an interesting one.
Yeah,
but I think
this generation we saw it from Microsoft. They did not make a next gen only game until like 3 years in or whatever. They refused. There was Flight Sim, but unusual case on Flight Sim because it was not really made with console in mind at all.
Handheld, guys. Screw all
I
this.
don't care for handhelds. You've not even got hands. What are you talking about?
I would like a handheld, and I really want it to be called the Xbox Series E. If anyone is listening,
Why E?
Wow, that was a shot
for everywhere. Or the Xbox Series P.
No, I didn't. Don't say that. I'll die.
Although potentially you end up with the Xbox Series S, the Xbox Series E, and the Xbox Series X, which is unfortunate for marketing. That wasn't my intention.
Next question,
that wasn't my intention.
Please, God, just next question.
Rather unfortunate on all the box art.
Please, next question. I'm gonna die.
Oh God. Was that Pete's question? What question?
No,
was
that was a legal dad on that one. Right, episode 13 is asked. Great show, guys. Thank you, episode 13. Just thought I'd say, keep up the good work and the chemistry. Long may Xbox continue, and you guys, thumbs up and some kisses. Thank you for letting that one through. It's not a question.
He's mocking me because I don't have a thumb. I don't appreciate that, fucker. Next.
He's being very nice. Thank you, episode 13. That is like genuinely nice comments coming through. Means a lot. So thank you. Pete has asked, gaming has been a thing for over 50 years. Some of us were lucky enough to be there at the start. Games that were awesome in gaming history. Wait, are they still awesome now? Do they deserve to be played now? Do you two play really old stuff? Do you appreciate old stuff and do you actively play old stuff?
I don't actively play old stuff.
God.
No. Unless you count the darkness,
what do you mean?
But I'm not going to.
What define old stuff?
Well, no, broadly at the moment, we'll just stick with retro gaming as a whole. Pete obviously is going back 50 years. Pete worked in the gaming industry and was pivotal in the development of the original XCOM games. So he's got a good, interesting history behind him and interesting commentary whenever we are talking
about Pete.
It is a fun fact about Pete. There are loads of other fun facts about Pete. But he has some interesting perspectives for that reason. But typically, so we'll just say retro as in not current gen, like anything that's not currently supported.
100%.
How far back do you go?
What was that? Game Boy Color, at least.
You actively play a Game Boy Color game? Stuff. Yeah. What have you been playing?
Yeah. Well, first off, the Pokemons. Like I got I had it with me. What was that device? I had it on the. Oh my god, not a retro pocket. What the heck? Help me out here. Oh no,
I
what's that?
can't. I can't.
Oh no. That emulation. It's not an emulator. It's that somebody made a Game Boy Color lookalike that could play GB games and Game Boy Color games. And
Mm-hmm.
what was that called? There's a
I
company.
don't
Oh
know.
my god, I can't believe it. Somebody in chat, save me.
It's not
Yeah,
Pocket Boy, is it?
not Pocket Boy. It's something Pocket.
Mm.
Shit. Anyways, um, I've been playing all my old. I have the original old Pokemon games, yellow, red, blue. I even played Tetris, which is which is funny. Um, and I went back to the GBA titles of Final Fantasy, so I all the way to
Mm-hmm.
4, I think. So I've been playing 1 through 4. I'm on the 3rd one as we speak, but I packed it for my new place, so I don't have it with me. Yeah, I've been really enjoying it too. Pete, the old school games do have something special in them. Can't explain it. Maybe it's fresh ideas, maybe it's just nostalgia, but yeah. Uh the only thing that has given me the same joy as an old school game right now is stuff like the Nintendo titles, stuff like Zeldas and the remakes of Zelda and you know, that type of stuff. Not even the Pokemon games do that for me, but Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom gives me a nice hit of old school. Elden Ring also gives me hints of old school gaming and structure, strangely enough. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Anyways.
It's difficult to answer because I appreciate retro gaming, but with gaming being as saturated it is and as many games to play, I don't spend much time on old stuff. And I always say whenever I introduce the Q&A show on the Wednesday, I always say it's like past, present, and future of gaming all coming together. But I very rarely touch the past stuff, and it's not because I don't want to or because they're not good anymore. That very much depends case by case on kind of what the focus of the game was. Certain elements of a game age better than others. Like I can go onto the Sega Saturn and play Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is one of my all-time favorite games. And it doesn't hold up. It's like it almost hurts your eyes because the graphics just didn't age nicely. But there are other games from that same generation that I'd quite happily go and play now and sit and spend hours and hours and hours on if I had those hours and hours and hours. Headley, what's like the oldest kind of game that you engage with?
Honestly, that's a bit of a difficult one to answer because I don't really have any of like my sort of older consoles anymore. I haven't really sort of held on to any of my older libraries. There is one game that I am really craving to go back to, and it is on the 360, and that is Condemned. It was a launch title. I've been thinking about that game a lot, and I've wanted to go back and jump into that because I really, really liked it when it came out. So my first generation of console that I really remember was distinctly was the PS1. I have faint memories of like a Sega Mega Drive before then, but PS1 was really sort of the platform that I grew up on. A little part of me that would really like to sort of go back to the good old simple times when I was a little kid playing like the old Crash Bandicoot games with my sister.
Not Crash Bandicoot.
But yeah, I sort of oh yeah, I was going to ask you, what's your beef with Crash Bandicoot? I meant to ask you that earlier in the show. Why don't you like Crash Bandicoot? I'm
curious. Garbage.
Because it was
right?
massive when it came out. It was huge. Did you not like it when it came out? Or...
So one, it came out. The timing was off, and this is like confirmed 100% fact, not even opinion. Crash Bandicoot came out as a mascot when mascots were no longer cool. Right? Mario and Sonic existed. For better or worse, they served a purpose for those platforms, and Crash Bandicoot was a Me Too. They wanted, here's a mascot like Mario and Sonic. And it fell short in that sense, but its biggest crime was that running towards the camera is bad game design. And I don't care what anybody says. Like, running towards the camera should not exist in a video game. You cannot see towards the camera. So don't make me run towards it.
I'll give you that.
But Uncharted
I may have been
4,
too young
Asa,
to care.
Uncharted 3, Uncharted 4.
Same crime. Don't make me do that. Never make me do that.
You know, you don't remember like the truck scene where the truck's like trying to run you over and you're like
I'm
running
saying
this way. Like,
it's not. I'm saying that I hold that to the same standard.
No.
Never make me run towards the screen. This is like in Hellblade. There's a section where you can't see anything and you have to play just by ears. That's better because at least they let you have your ears and you're supposed to. The point is that you can't see. But I hate running towards the camera. So Crash Bandicoot. I don't even know if you do that in 4. I don't know if there are any levels where you run towards the camera, but I never forgave the IP.
And that is why Asa should be very, very happy that Indiana Jones is first person, because if it tried to do the running away from a boulder in third person, he'd be so pissed. So
imagine if it does.
You're welcome.
Like, even then, even reversing
right
is
now.
better.
I'm gonna make you a video right now of me running at a camera, just on repeat.
I tell you what, there's one retro game that I really wish that I could go back and play, and I've looked for it over time. I can't. You can't get it digitally on PlayStation. Does anyone remember Team Buddies on PS1?
Never heard of it.
It was a game that I played. Try and look up some footage if you can. But it's a game called Team Buddies. It was sort of like an isometric style split screen co-op game where you sort of had
Wow, this looks incredible.
bases and sort of like drops that showed up around the map. Like I think you had to sort of, if I remember rightly, you had to gather blocks from around the map and you could piece them together and make weapons or vehicles to sort of like combat the enemy team with. It was so much fun and it was out on the PS1. There's actually quite a lot of like OG PlayStation games I'd really like to go back and play. Like Ape Escape is another one as well. And I know you can actually, there are ways of playing that on the PS5.
Ape Escape is amazing.
Ape Escape, yeah. Ape Escape's great. Or if I look back at the PS2 generation, like I'd love to play Jak and Daxter again. I really want a new Jak and Daxter for PlayStation 5, by the way.
PlayStation, if you're listening, which you're not.
They're not.
They're
They
definitely going to be listening to the Xbox Series podcast, yeah.
if you're
well, maybe they will. It's not like they've got a lot to play this year.
Free up Jak and Daxter. I know a lot of people like they look at Naughty Dog today and they're like, never go back. You know, you've evolved. But man, if you're gonna shift strategy and make like interesting game franchises again, Jak and Daxter, you need to revisit that. Give one talented studio that game, please.
Yeah, I really like.
We're gonna do, because we've hit our 2-hour mark now. We're gonna do one more question. So I'm sorry if that makes it really awkward, but please present just the one single best remaining question. If you submit a question and it doesn't get selected, it means that you suck. It doesn't mean that. We've got limited time, and we appreciate that you wanted to talk to us.
You all suck.
And I temporarily fell into Gamzly's role of publicly hating everyone. I didn't mean to.
Despite Asa's cruelty, just there. If you can hit that like button for us, we would really appreciate it. Fuck Asa.
Absolutely.
Give us thumbs.
I agree with that.
I don't have enough. Please.
What's the worst game that you ever bought? That's the question. Mr. Report, E.T., the one that was buried in the desert. What's the worst game that you've ever bought, Deadly Headley?
Oh, that is a tough question. It's a really tough question.
Mine's easy. Oh, I didn't buy it. I was going to say Potato, but I bloody game passed it.
I'm not even
that is a really tricky question. Trying to think of like a game that I've like paid money for and then just had like a real like visceral response where I've just gone, I can't believe I've just bought this shit. That's a really tough one.
Have you got one, Gamzly?
I can point to a game that I didn't like it wasn't a bad game. I just remember sort of going, I wish I didn't buy that. It was Mortal Kombat 10, I think, because I'm not a huge fighter anyway. I remember picking it up and just going, fuck it, I'll give it, because it looked gorgeous. Do you remember the first sort of, because it was the first like built for Xbox One and PS4 Mortal Kombat, I think, and it had this fantastic teaser footage of Scorpion and Sub-Zero like fighting in this forest, and like all the marketing stuff was gorgeous. All the gameplay looked fantastic, and I just thought, okay, I'm not the biggest fighting fan, but fuck it, I'll give it a go because it looks great, and it's Mortal Kombat. It should be a good laugh. I remember the X-ray stuff looking really cool, and just I don't know, like it's a fighter, and I don't really like fighters, and it's a game that I regret buying. But yeah, I can't say it was a bad game.
Mm-hmm. About you, Gamzly?
Oh, this is.
Mm-hmm.
But shit. You know,
I'm sure there's some
recently.
proper stinkers.
Well, no, there's many, but from the
I've
last
definitely bought some. I just
decade,
can't think of any.
from the last decade, I've kind of sort of understand what I really like, and I really haven't messed up very often. Oh my god. Uh, what did I? Oh,
Mm.
Sonic. What was that one? Oh my god, it was not a recent Sonic, but there was like this Sonic. It's over a decade old at this point, I think. There was a Sonic game that like looked 3D. It was all 3D, and you were running like it was a 3D platformer. Not the recent one, but Sonic Mania. Where was it? What the heck was it?
There's been a
Oh my
bunch.
god! It was a Sonic
FTW's
game.
called out.
It was
FTW's
like
called
the
out Redfall in the chat. Like if you bought Redfall,
You didn't
man,
buy
it's-
Redfall though.
no,
that's
but I
cheating.
didn't. I didn't buy
Yes.
Redfall. I didn't buy
I'd
Redfall.
be fuming if I bought Redfall. I'd be
Yeah,
so
I
mad.
didn't buy Redfall, but I definitely bought that Sonic game. I don't know. Mania is the good one though, right? Sonic Mania.
Popular one.
It was
Yeah.
a 3D Sonic game last generation, I think. I can't give you the name. I'm so sorry I failed you, but that's the last. I know I like Sonic, and when I bought the game, I was like, this is freaking garbage. I freaking hated this Sonic game. So I would say that. So it goes far, like maybe 10 years old. So I don't really buy
don't have
games
an
that
answer.
Oh yes, guys, Hellblade 2. Yeah, that one.
Hellblade 2? Not out yet.
You know what? I've managed to go back to it.
Fucking
and
Helldivers 2,
redeemed
goddammit.
myself for it.
I ruined my own joke.
I
hate
remember
myself.
really struggling to get into Fallout 4 when I bought that, because I did buy that when it came out, but I have since gone back to it and finished it and actually really enjoyed it. I think I just sort of, it didn't really do much for me at the time. I modded it on my more recent playthrough. Actually, I ended up modding Halo weapons and armor into that, and I've got when I was thinking about doing YouTube content but hadn't actually put my mind to it, one of the things that I did actually feature it in a video that is up on my channel talking about Starfield and why I was sort of excited for it and didn't necessarily like the other Bethesda games. I did actually use some footage of me using Halo stuff in Fallout 4. I had a great time with that mod. I really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, I might put Fallout 4 in that list because I struggled to get into it. But again, I can't say it was a bad game. It just didn't get me. But I'm glad that it did the second time around.
Thank you,
Patrick
Isla.
bought the
Sonic
back
Lost
upgrade for
World.
Redfall.
Sonic Lost World, I think, was exactly it, Isla. Thank you.
I've actually never heard of that one, so yes, that's my answer as well. That's it. That's all of our questions done for today. We've got nothing else for today apart from our outro. So first of all, I'm going to say, again, thank you everyone so much for coming and watching us and supporting us and listening to us speak nonsense. Yeah, it is appreciated every week. Gamzly, please tell everyone what you're up to this week and where they can find you.
Well, I'm going to be playing Brotato as usual every week. Same time every Sunday, you know what I mean?
Is that the same potato on your
Anyways.
shelf? Or have you replaced it? Are you getting a
Yes.
fresh potato every week? We're just going to watch it grow into a potato
when
tree.
it's falling apart, I'll get another one just for you. Yeah,
Good, because
so
they
I'm
start
gonna
to
be
smell
playing
after
some
a while
games.
in your face.
Yes, they do. Not as much as you use. Anyways,
True.
so I'm gonna I'm going to be playing some games this weekend with the community, hopefully on community night Sunday, right, Asa? So I'm going to be with you guys doing that. Mondays on Boom's show, Double Barrel Gaming on YouTube at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and then Thursday here each Thursday 3 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. Thank you for watching, and again, don't forget to hit the like button and do all that good stuff. There was almost 70 of you here watching us, so really appreciate it. Love you guys.
Deadly Headley, you also tell people that you love them and tell them where they can find you, what you're up to for the week.
So yeah, I just to echo the other guy's sentiments, we're really, really grateful for the support
Other
and
guy.
love that I said, guys, both of you two, my
the
compadres, my co-hosts,
The
my
potato hasn't grown into a man yet.
So we the Thursdays have very quickly become a big highlight for me each week, and I'm really enjoying sort of co-hosting this show with these guys. We really do have such a great time, and it's just all the familiar faces that keep on showing up in the chat, all the support that we get after the fact, all the views and likes and comments and all of that stuff. We see it all, and we love it, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much for doing it and supporting us, and keep doing what you guys do so that we can keep doing what we do. Obviously you can find me here every Thursday from 8 p.m. GMT, 3 p.m. Eastern time. I can't remember. This is 12 p.m. Pacific time, and then 9 p.m. Europe. I'm trying to memorize it, and hopefully
Sounds
not
good.
deliver it in a very terrible order. You can also find me on Twitter at deadlyheadley_, and you can find me on YouTube, where I have lots of good content, but unfortunately nothing new in the pipeline at the moment. That will change. I've got some hurdles, sort of IRL personal hurdles, that I need to sort of navigate and work through before I can start making content again. Don't worry, I'm okay. Everything's fine. I'm just really fucking busy. But at some point, I do want to start making lovely content. If you don't know who I am, my name is Deadly Headley, as you've probably gathered. You can find me on YouTube at Deadly Headley, and I put quite a lot of focus into delivering content that has a pretty high production value, and I'm very, very proud of that. So again, if this is your first time here or you haven't checked out my channel, please go and do that. And yes, you will hear more from me soon.
Yeah, second that. Please do give Deadly Headley a little bit of support. Subscribe on his channel, ready for when he is back into the content production, which is worth waiting for. I will say again, the guys have already said it, but any likes and subscribes, if you can leave any comments on the video, that is a big help. I am freaking terrible at any sort of self-promotion or anything like that. So relying on everybody else to do that work for me, please help us out with those little things. And we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Have a good week.